My job is I'm a journeyman electrician at Nitric Electrical. I've worked for them for 7 years now, since I was an apprentice and topped out there and stayed with them, and now I do work for them as well. I've ran a couple projects recently. I did the Made of Paper.
So any other questions for Sam on what he's doing, and then we can get into what we're looking at proposing.
Potential, I know you're building out office space, but do you have any potential tenants lined up for that?
Actually, I have signed one tenant already for one of the spaces, which worked very well, because unfortunately I had to walk her through the building as it was framed. So we made up, we had the rooms already made up. She liked one of the room areas, and so she's scheduled to move in.
And how many potential tenants will this renovated space?
It will be a total of 5 offices.
Oh, fine, okay.
The building looks great from the outside.
Yeah, so I forgot to mention as well, so that space as well, all the exterior windows I've just recently replaced. And then I will be continuing that with the mint julep section. And then, so all the windows in the front will be fixed. And then I've done some exterior work as well, adding vinyl siding to the top
Noticed that
portion.
yesterday.
So,
Drove by.
Is there a particular segment of the market or industry that you're looking to attract? I'm just thinking there is a lot of office space available right now, so how will you differentiate yours, do you think?
So I'd like to maintain, I'm trying to get people in that are, kind of, that used to be in an office setting, but they don't require that, but at the same time, they need somewhere outside of their home to be able to go and actually do work. The office spaces, the rent will include internet, all the utilities will be included with it as well.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to this
Yeah.
space here.
Yeah.
Individual office spaces, and they're filling up. I
Yes.
mean, it takes a little time, but eventually people find them and do it as long as the rent's reasonable.
Yeah, so the tenant that I just signed, she was unfortunately outside of Watertown, and most of her business here is in Watertown, so she's had an office, but it was in Sackett's Harbor, so now she's close to downtown. It makes it a lot more easy access for her clients.
Kylie, do you want to talk about the proposal?
Yep, so the proposal, just to go over it, the borrower is Pragmatic Solutions, Inc., with a guarantor Samuel May. The amount is $136,871.95, and included in that is $73,000 that will be going towards improvements, which includes some of the improvements you already did with reading management. And then the owner held note of $63,871.95 that will be coming due in January, correct? January 22nd?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. So the project, as he's explained, is he bought the building in January 2022. We weren't originally involved in it due to the owner held note, which is why we're coming into it now. WSB was involved originally. And then, as you can see, there's all the list of all of the stuff he's already completed. And then what the funds that is being requested, what they will be going towards. And it goes down to all of the renovations from the energy efficient HVAC system, framing, sheetrock, new office layout, install drop ceiling, and so on.
Kelly, one of the things I just noticed that I would put in for the board meeting is under the sources and uses. Because we're looking at this project as a whole and we weren't involved with it originally, I would put the bank's
Portion in.
portion in what that was used for. It was used to buy the building and do some of the renovations initially, right? Or was it just purchase the building?
Just to purchase the
It
building.
was to purchase the
Yeah.
building, okay. And then,
And then the funds he put in
and
himself
then
already.
I would include the funds that you've injected into the project, which has been substantial.
Yes, yeah.
So I would include that just to give a total overall picture. And one of the things I just want to address, generally, we don't pay out banknotes. This is a different scenario. These were owner-held notes when we started doing the renovations of the building. And they were done at very attractive rates. Now those are maturing, so that's the reason we're coming in. Had it not been for the owner notes, we probably would have been in initially with Watertown Savings Bank and going through the whole project. So it's a little different, but there's no policy against doing that. It's not just paying out bank notes to reduce the interest rate or anything like that. So there's an actual need for it. So we will need to get a new appraisal as completed. Don Coon do the original.
I have to check.
Yes.
Okay.
Did he?
Don, okay. So he should have all the basic information. He'll see what you're doing. He can basically revise that to get it as completed. So yeah, we just need to know what the bank's exposure is right now, plus the new WLDC debt to have a value that we see.
Do you know what the thing is now?
I believe it was 180.
Like 200, you know?
It was originally 196.
196.
Okay. So yes, that's why I'd like to get that into the sources and uses, so we know what the total debt against the building is, and then we can compare that to the appraised value. Other than that, the cash flow from the rental properties is sufficient to service existing and new debt, plus the secondary sources, obviously Samuel's full-time job and collateral, so.
Do you remember what that came in at?
The original one, I believe it was. Originally 3-something, low, 300, 305 or something like that, before any of the work was done.
Yeah, because I think as far as appraisal, we're fine. We just need the gap financing and sell it out back the gap instead of going directly to you.
So you think the existing appraisal supports?
That's kind of where I was,
That's what I wanted to know.
that's where I was kind of thought maybe this would be a good opportunity for him because the gap, it'd be close to the 1-to-1.
Yeah.
But I wasn't sure what the improvement numbers were at that time, because this was back a few months now. When we talked.
Yes, yeah. The renovation, I don't know if I had completely finished the renovations in the apartment yet either at the time.
Yeah.
What would the cost be now, probably to get a new appraisal done?
It's not from scratch. It's
Right, that's what I mean,
basically-
especially if you go back to him, it shouldn't be too tricky back. It'd be interesting to get probably a current, it probably has appreciated pretty good based on what
He's
he's
done a lot of work
Yeah,
on his own. and-
yeah, for sure.
Any other questions?
I'm good.
All right, Sam, thank you.
All set?
Thank
Yeah, we're
you.
all set.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Board meeting is next Wednesday, so we'll have an answer.
Okay, perfect, thank you, have a good day.
You too.
So next one on the agenda is the eatery on Franklin. So this is already a loan that we have approved. So to give a little background, she originally started on Court Street, then had quite a few issues as far as the construction on Court Street, landlord issues. Then she moved and was in with Empire Square, and then has just recently decided to move. Now she's under the Y with the Morning Ritual. This is a loan, as I said, the money is we've already spent. We're just re-amortizing it, and just really cleaning some stuff up for us on our end.
Is this loan amount to be amortized, is it all principal or are we recapturing some interest?
So she's interest current, so she's paid all the
Okay.
interest. So that is a full just principal amount.
Okay.
So we're proposing to re-amortize it over 72 months with a 3-month principal moratorium. So that way it gives her a little bit of time to get her feet under her in the new space. From when I spoke with her, it does seem to be going well.
Wasn't she over with the other person?
Yeah, she was with Empire Square.
She's totally out of there now?
So she still uses the kitchen over there, and then transports it, and it's more of like a grab and go where they're located now under the Y with the donuts from like the Morning Ritual, and then she's focusing on like coffee, salads, sandwiches.
My perception is that they're getting more traction in this space. It's more clear that it's these two businesses working together, even before the news. Where with Empire Square and Eatery, it felt confusing as to who you were,
Yeah.
which menu you were going after at a particular time. So it feels like
I agree.
this
It
is a
wasn't
more
really-
positive place for her.
It wasn't really promoted
Right.
as a dual restaurant the other place. She really didn't know. You had the sign,
Yeah.
it wasn't the eatery,
Yeah.
So it was between them that she would do breakfast and lunch and then Vonette would do dinner. And it was never really communicated very well to the public, so.
And then they shook it up sometimes, and sometimes Eatery would do
Yeah,
dinner, and it just got very
yeah.
confusing, where this feels clearer and cleaner to me, but
Yeah, so
That's
they're
my
like
perception.
two places. Yeah, I
Mhm.
agree.
And I think too, it cuts down on her, overhead, obviously. It's not really a sit-down, although you can sit there and eat, but it's not a big restaurant.
Yeah, it's focused definitely more on the grab and go.
Takeout, yeah.
Did
And
she,
the Y's doing a lot to help.
I see that,
promote
yes,
it,
yes.
so, yeah.
Actually, I was in and had a meeting with the Y, and I got the sense that they
Yeah.
were all in on, well, I guess when we gain weight from eating the donuts, we need the Y all the more.
Yeah.
marketing tool, right? for
Yeah.
membership? By any chance, does she give us any indication, like a pro forma of where she sees this going there? I know I'm asking kind of a
Yeah.
far off question, but.
So it's something that we keep following up with to get more information on. At this time, we do not have a pro forma. But it's something I can follow up with her too. I mean, we've had lots of conversations with her over the last, especially few months, and getting to where we are now. We're able to present this to the committee to have a plan going forward. But I think now that she's in her own space and it's being successful, she would be able to give us those numbers.
Yeah, I guess from my perspective, the important part is the dialogue needs to remain fluid,
Yeah.
right?
And
Because
she
it
has
is
been
fluid.
great with that.
Okay.
She's always very
She
responsive.
is, I mean, it's good, but I guess my overall concern is if we do, look at that schedule structure we're looking to put together, what does she really need to generate to
Make it happen.
to be able to meet it. So,
No, I completely get it. I don't think she knows, to be quite honest, but, it's.
She's had a lot of variables kind of
Yeah.
against her.
Oh, there has been.
I'd like
She's-
to
Yeah.
I'd like to be
Yeah.
supportive of this and hope for the
She's been
best.
very
I'll even
upfront.
eat more donuts.
Yeah.
Keep the donuts.
Well, you better go for the grab and go section.
Salads.
Yeah.
The rest.
You'll make that
I'll
sacrifice.
make that sound,
Yeah.
whatever it takes.
I will say the donut product, and I know that's not necessarily her main revenue source, but that partner that she's with in there, I don't know, would I spend a month, I had a family member in that Carthage High School, and every morning when I'd run out there, it seemed like that was my first
Yeah.
stop in Carthage before I went to the hospital, so. Does wonders for the nursing staff up there if you take them
I
back,
bet.
just as an FYI.
Good call. That's
Good
nice.
strategy.
Definitely.
Tend to your loved one.
That's right, yeah. Don't leave the box at the nurse's station, leave it in the loved one's room.
Exactly.
They seem to come more frequently.
Check the IV, grab a donut.
Are we do you want to take these all in at one time, is that what you want to do, or how do you?
Oh.
Because we probably should make, so, I don't care, I'll make a recommendation to move this
Okay.
eatery one forward.
Not second.
And then pragmatic.
The only question I have on that is, so most of what we do when we do second, we're good to go up to 1-to-1 on value, right? Okay. And then the only other really observation I had, I mentioned this to Kylie the other day when I phoned her, was, were we looking to kind of structure these requests to kind of, particular individual loans? Were we looking at the overall dollar size we were looking at going forward? I know we had a conversation about
Well,
that.
we did have a conversation, we never really came to a formal conclusion
Right.
as to what the dollar amount would be. And that conversation was spurred at a time when we had a lot of not a lot of volume, but high dollar loan requests, which was getting a little concerning at the time. This was back probably, 8 months ago?
Yeah, it was a few months, it was probably good
It was,
six,
it was
8
quite a
months.
while ago, and, at that point, it spurred us to ask the bank to take us out of the Clinton Development Project, which they did. Right now, our cash flow is actually looking pretty good as far as what we've got in the hopper and, as far as covering the loan requests that we have out there. So I think we're in pretty good shape, and Kylie, correct me if I'm wrong, you have kind of been taking the lead on making
Yeah,
sure
I mean, we
have
definitely would need to be careful with, not be doing a bunch of $300,000-$400,000 loans, but doing these types as of right now, we do have stuff coming matured and being able to transfer out from our investments and stuff, so.
So the timing on our
So the timing right now,
investment
we're
maturities is
good.
pretty good.
Okay. I don't see, this looks like a nice project, he's done a nice job up there. As long as the collateral coverage is there, if you do 1-to-1, I think we're.
If it came in at 300 before we did any of the renovations.
That's why I suggested him come over here to basically redo or go back in time, grab
So,
the southern note, and if you need 25, then improvements be done with it, but improvements are.
75.
75, so, I wasn't, he's doing all the work and all that stuff, and he's good and all that, so I just didn't know what that number was, when he formally came here.
I guess it's,
If you agreeing on the appraisal, then give us a little, business, that's where I was coming at, I was thinking, alright, so the appraisal supports it to 1-to-1, and we should, not we should have, but one of the ways we would have done this at the time he bought it was to do the cash financing and put it, he's got the equity,
Yeah.
he should be showing the equity,
Yeah.
to Don's point, that he has into the project.
Agreed.
So do you need a motion for that one?
So you feel comfortable?
Oh yeah, I think this is a good project. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure. I think at the end of the day, Don had a good comment, and I think it would be helpful for us just to understand the full if we look at it the way it's presented here, we're not seeing the full picture.
Yeah.
So I do think it makes sense to update that when we take it to the board and show the original investment to acquire the purchase, what he's put into it, you know, then where we're going. Because at first when I looked at it, I was like, oh, we're doing 136, 136, and we're,
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not sure where we're at
We
with it.
wouldn't just, see, generally, 40,000s are standalone loans.
Yeah.
But you got, that's why I went, and you gotta take it back to the original.
Well, we gotta get the seller out, I'm assuming, to get the second, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so we gotta take that out.
Yeah.
Right, so we have no.
Yeah.
And honestly, I mean, if it came down, if those numbers were presented 2 years ago, the bank probably would have done
A bit more.
a bit more.
Yeah, yeah. Well, but again, you didn't know the full
Right,
project yet.
now it's,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, I think if we're gonna take, and support somebody that's done a project, particularly, you know, you could say that's the downtown market area. It's just,
Oh, sure it
it's just up State Street. He's done a great job from when he acquired the property 2 years ago to where he is today. I certainly say, you know, if we're gonna support somebody, this is ideal to continue to enhance that corridor, so.
I agree.
Yeah.
Support, sure.
Yep.
Motion to approve.
Second.
My coffee.
No thanks.
Well, we're just sending these up to the board.
Send it to a board.
Yeah, we're sending.
Yeah, but we're recommending. A motion to recommend, excuse me.
Send your-
Too many donuts, I'm hopped up on sugar.
I see that, you love that donut shop. I know what I'm buying.
I've never had a donut.
When I go to a meeting with Don next, I know what I'm getting.
So do we have to vote to approve this or recommend it?
We'll just recommend it to the board.
Yes.
We'll approve it at the board next week.
Yeah. Okay, so the next project is the Masonic Temple, so 242 Washington Street LLC. This has been a project that has been going on
So sure.
Forever.
Yes, Don, I think, has been a part of this for at least a year. Dank did approve it for up to 250,000 at their board meeting last week. So what they're looking for is up to 250,000 from the WLDC. We were brought into this project from the city, as I said, about a year ago. The collateral would be the assignment of grant proceeds, mortgage on real estate. So Don might have a little bit more information off the top of his head on this project. But so far, they have put in almost $1 million of her own funds.
What's that?
So they put about $1 million of their own funds into the project. They're requesting 250,000 from us, Dank, the IDA, and then 225 from NCA as well, which Don and I are going tomorrow to sponsor the loan to NCA. The owner is Augusta Withington. As you can see, the property is for the Masonic Temple. The grant that they've received is the Restore grant, 500,000, and then the DRI grant for 2.2 million. So what is being covered by this grant is the facade, exterior windows, the elevator, and a bathroom, correct, Don?
Correct.
Okay.
They're actually listed there in the document, and improvements and work completed. To be completed, it should be.
So this is, you know,
Yeah.
this is rather complicated. There's a lot of different pieces to this deal. Bottom line is, assuming the restore money comes in and the DRI is extended past the December 31st expiration date. Assuming the funding comes in from these, the bottom line is that the shortfall based on the cash flows after our 750 is approximately $451,000, which would have meant that the LLC would have to come up with another 400, and even after our loans, $451,000 through the project. In order to make that more palatable to them, we asked NCA if they would consider doing, they can do up to 225, which would cut that basically, you know, in half and make it more palatable for them to come up with half, like 250, to get to the project done. And one of the things, if we approve it, is we want to understand where that money's coming from. Okay. So these loans are basically bridging basically bridging the DRI funding that's coming in, assuming the 500,000 restore comes in prior to December. Our loan would be contingent upon the DRI being extended. Okay, so we're gonna need to know that. So basically what it is, the state wants to know that they have the funding in place. If the funding is committed, pretty confident the DRI is gonna be extended. We won't advance, well, yeah, we would, but what we're gonna need from the state, and we did this with our DRI money, is when we ask for extensions, they send us formal letter that, yes, we're extending it. I think we would at least need to get that from the state, that our loans are contingent upon extension of DRI past the 12/31 date. Please acknowledge that you're gonna extend this, and then we can feel pretty confident going forward with the advances.
Would we expect that information before the next board meeting?
Probably not, no, it's gonna be a contingent, we're gonna
Okay.
do a
They
contingent.
they probably need to show they've got funding before the
They do.
state will even entertain it,
They
so
do.
that won't happen.
There's a sort of a contingency from the state, so I should say, I've been working on this project from Empire State Development's perspective, and the extension of any deadlines would also be contingent on their ability to present a path forward.
Gotcha, yeah.
We have made it known to them that in order for any of these awards to be dispersed, they have to demonstrate to us a timeline, a budget, and sources to complete their project.
And they have been extending projects.
They have been, their project has been extended previously.
Okay, yeah.
And so right now, we have a hard deadline of December of this year to have that project completed.
Okay.
We're not extending anything until it needs to be extended.
Yeah.
At this point, we're telling, our response is there's no extension. We've got 4 months or whatever.
So
Get on it.
Yeah.
So if there is commitment letters forthcoming to them and forwarded to the state, contingent upon the extension, will they, how
Yeah.
long is it gonna take for them to approve an extension?
Not long.
So
So I talked at the
should-
DANK board meeting, we talked about it basically being a consideration of the closing.
Okay,
So if there's an extension, it would happen at the closing.
okay.
So for our sake, so Dank has taken this up, they've already given it the thumbs up.
Thanks.
Have you guys done it, presented it yet? And
Not yet. It's coming to loan review next week. So we're in process.
Okay, and do we know any indication from NCA?
NCA, Kylie and I.
We go
are
tomorrow.
gonna, meet tomorrow with them as we're gonna be the sponsor.
There's full board meetings the 21st.
Theirs is.
Yeah, so this is their.
So is this the first time we've done a bridge?
No.
So we've done them in the past?
And I would just say, so I've been basically the project manager on this project from the very beginning.
Yeah.
Although I'm here on ESD's behalf as part of the LDC, I'm not, we're not saying that you should do this. We're I think they're asking,
Yeah,
is this something you can do? The city of Watertown was involved with this, trying to sort of broker a solution as well.
City of Watertown pushed this,
Yeah.
basically.
Well, basically, the project had its final extension, and the city of Watertown is trying to make this work, which we're happy to work with. But I guess my point here is to say, the fact that I'm here doesn't mean that, folks should take that as.
No, I mean, we gotta be prudent to what we
That
can
be
do
prudent to
for
the
the
others,
LDC.
100%. And there is risk here.
Oh, yeah.
Because even though it's a reimbursable grant, they have to meet the requirements of the grant to receive a disbursement. So
Right.
there is a risk involved. It's not simply, well, they already have these grants, so
Right.
if they just spend
Right.
money. There are items that they have to accomplish, and
And for look, and again, I know what we're trying to accomplish here. It's, kind of a little bit of an outlier ask for this agency. But at the end of the day, to Steve's point, there is quite a bit of risk here.
Yeah, I just address that for a minute. And I understand that, the risk is obviously them not complying with the requirements of the grant. Other than that, if they do comply, while the reimbursements may not be exactly according to the best estimate schedule, they will come in, okay? If they meet the requirements. So, yes, you're taking a chance on that. We have done it in the past. We did it with the Historical Society, and that's taken longer to get fully paid out than we originally anticipated, but we are getting paid.
right, and our intent would be to pay.
Sure.
We want them to be successful.
No, understand.
But my second point is, we're gonna take the guarantee of Augusta Woodington, who's 100% owner of 242 Washington Street LLC. We're gonna take the guarantee of Fourth Coast Inc. And so I guess I would say, if you looked at Fourth Coast Inc.'s financial statement, they have no debt. Basically, they have $16,000 in debt. They have very good cash flow. And they have, I'm just looking here.
That's the repayment for the interest.
What's that?
That's truly the repayment for the interest of this project. That's truly the repayment for the interest on this project.
Yeah, it will be. So, I guess my.
So that's where my risk is coming in, right?
I feel like there's more construction risk than anything.
Anything, yeah, I mean,
But if it fell apart, let's just say, if you look at Fourth Coast and they wanted a $750,000 mortgage or whatever it is, based on their financial statements,
They get it.
yeah,
on what?
to Fourth Coast, they could service.
But they would get a mortgage on what?
Well, let's just say they,
Say this went belly up and then,
I'm
yeah,
just talking
everybody's
from cash flow
500
perspective.
into it. You could sue Fourth Coast.
Look at their total cash available for debt service in 2023. They could-
No, I'm not disputing.
I'm just saying from a
Yeah.
secondary source of
Yeah.
repayment.
Yeah. I understand that. I'm just saying, again, I think the challenge we gotta look at is, we've had some experience recently with trying to recover some loans that we put together. And even when we've got tangible real estate on the table, we're still in a position where it's difficult for us to recover. And I'm just saying, this is a little bit outside of our box, and I understand what the city's advocating, I understand the state. My other challenge with this is all exterior work. I'm not sure they get this done, how does that improve? In lies my other.
I said in a couple of meetings, and I shared the same concerns. Obviously, this stuff, these projected numbers are basically to keep the exterior standing, right? Keep
Right.
the building standing.
I
So
agree.
they're-
No.
And this is basically phase one.
Well, they do have, as part of this particular phase, an elevator that will service all of the building. So their argument is that that opens the availability of that space for other use. So right now, they're basically renting the first floor that you can access from the street level. But once they can open up other space, they have, you know, it would take another project to
Right.
make those spaces.
There is no end use
Right, there is no current end use.
For that property, generate rental income, other than what it's doing right now.
Right.
With
Right.
this 3 million.
So then my question would be, if Fourth Coast came to us today, would we entertain Fourth Coast for anything? I don't care what their numbers look like. If they walked in today and said,
Yes.
hey, we would.
Wouldn't we?
I mean, it's a
Well,
facade,
are they-
it's a facade improvement in a building,
Well, my question is, they don't own anything in this, they don't own this property, they don't, so if they said, hey, we want to help this borrower out, we want to come in. I guess the other thing is, I'm not saying we wouldn't consider it, but the structure might change a little bit. Could care less about the guarantee, put them on the table with us. And I don't know how we do that, but that,
Put one on the table.
put Fourth Coast on the table with us. I don't care about their guarantee, that'll be a co-borrower with this real estate holding
Is
company.
there, from a legal perspective?
That's
is there
my
a difference?
question.
I don't think there's a difference.
Well, that would be something we'd want to check with Pete on, but,
Because they're not on the title.
yeah.
They wouldn't be on the title, they would be on the note as well.
Right.
Or they would be on the note.
Right, if we make them a co-borrower. So we got better, we have better leverage if we have to go back. Look, at the end of the day,
I hear what you're saying.
because I'm not 100% sure,
I think we should check with Pete on that. Is there a difference? Would there be a difference as them being a co, number one, can we take them as a co?
you can from a county perspective. I don't know if our organizational structure, we could,
Okay.
okay.
Let me ask you this, was there ever a
Project
discussion
timeline.
if there's any cost overruns? They get in there and they say, oh, this beam's gonna cost an extra 300,000?
There's been discussions,
And she-
that would be on her and.
And she's got the wherewithal to.
so far they financed the,
What's that?
so far they financed the.
They've got how much into it so far?
$900,000
Yeah.
Out of pocket?
out of pocket.
She's got money,
Yeah. Alright.
so,
And this was a difficult one for me too. Take the
Well, I
banker
can see
hat
it
off.
from-
Well, yeah, you're taking up, but I'm not sure, I mean, other than we're beautifying.
Right, but it's still not gonna
Well,
be done, you're still.
Securing-
And I'm not even
securing the
sure,
building.
yeah, right, I'm not even sure it's beautification there, it's just structural integrity
Structural
improvement.
integrity.
Historic site in
Yeah.
downtown. It's a
Yeah.
historic building.
Yeah,
It's a tough one, but it's, it's kind of what we do. I mean, we do facades. I mean, we given grant money for facades.
This is just a much larger facade
Right.
project that was apart from the facade program because it's not a $25,000 project, you know?
And let me just
I would
put it
like-
this way. We did the Franklin building back in the day. I mean, that was a bigger ass than this. We had at one point over $1.5 million into that project. We still have 771,000 sitting.
that's just gonna say,
Yeah,
we're still.
that was through no fault. It wasn't.
I'm not, again, that's what I'm saying, we could do this, I'm not saying there's any fault for anybody.
Right.
But
No, I get it.
where we are today versus where we are when we committed to that Franklin project are
And I do like the fact that
Once in
all
time.
4 agencies are involved in this, taking a piece
Piece
of
of
it.
the-
and
yeah.
that's- I mean, so I guess, I'm saying that's as good as it's gonna get if we decide to.
And we have to have evidence they have the ability to come up with the remaining 225.
That's the appeal to me, Chuck, though, working with the other agencies. But you had me until you said risk. When you said
Right.
risk, my ears perk up.
Well, I have to say
I know,
that.
no,
Well, it's
yeah,
legitimate.
I know.
There's
Sometimes
a lot of risk
when we're looking to gap finance,
Yeah,
the committee may think, well, there's a grant there, so we're definitely gonna get paid
Yeah.
back, but that isn't always the case. It depends on their ability to execute. Now, in this particular instance, I'm not an expert on Fourth Coast, but the company they happen to run as their primary employment, and it actually does government grants. I mean, they execute government, they'll do like municipal infrastructure projects.
okay,
So there is somewhat of an expertise there. so.
okay, well,
Don't
that's a good
disagree.
point. That's a good
My
point.
only concern is some of the type of work we're talking about here is not their core competency for what they do every day. And candidly speaking, this type of work is a specialty to Watertown, New York. We don't have a lot of these contractors sitting in our neighborhood saying, hey, we can perform this. I don't know who's gonna do that masonry work.
Well, they did, it's funny you say that, they have reported to us on like the columns, that they've gone to Arizona to try to
So
find the
say, yeah,
tiles
so-
and stuff.
Yeah.
And they've identified, like there's two places in the country or something that make the tiles. So they've identified a contractor.
Contractor that will
Yeah,
do
and a
it, yeah.
vendor that will do
Yeah.
what they're trying to do. They've got the approvals from SHPO for those.
That, and there comes the risk too, right? Because the challenge we have is if we've got somebody in Arizona that's gonna ship product to Watertown. You know when that Arizona contractor is gonna be happy, the minute he sees the taillights of that stuff flying up the highway. Our guy now's gotta be really responsible for application to his building, does it fit, can it pass code, can it, so I agree with Chuck, there's a lot, when we talk about this project, it would be ideal if we saw a finished product, we said, hey, we can get in there. I don't disagree with the collective support of the other agencies, but it's still a big ask for what we're all looking for. And I'm having a concern where it moves the needle for us, right? Other than we now have a more structural sound building right smack dab in the middle of our downtown. And next door to the Historic Society, it is a historic building, been there a long time. This is the challenge. I mean, I think when we look out, we can't be afraid to look at what Northern New York Community Foundation did to a very historic building. Right? And I'm not sure we're looking at the same or similar type of trajectory here on a project. That's all I'm saying.
It does kind of take me back to, just again, from the city of Watertown perspective, if we didn't do $2 million of PCB work on Woolworth Building, I mean, we were gonna be sitting there with a poisonous box forever in downtown. And here we have a gigantic,
Right.
beautiful building.
Right.
Something has to be done. And so while I do find, and it's funny, when you said, when you asked, would we do this? And I said, yes. I mean, I was thinking more along the lines of, if Augusta Withington showed up asking for a $750,000 mortgage, we would be granting it to her.
Right. I
So
know where you were going.
that was my
That was
thought.
my point.
Yeah.
That there is a secondary source. If things did not go well, there is the ability to get repaid based on,
Right, which mitigates that risk.
which mitigates
But-
the risk.
But I don't know that we put a $750,000 mortgage on that building today. And even if they did this work, I'm still trying to figure out what's the overall value that it gives to that building.
It doesn't until the project's completed, you get rental income.
Right.
So that's where you wouldn't give it today, you'd give it at that end project. We're looking at one phase.
Would we give it to her though if she was just gonna live in it?
No, we would, we would do that.
Well,
I'm not saying we would.
based,
But-
I'm not talking about collateral. Would you make a loan to the company based on their ability to repay?
Yes, that's kind of.
That's what I'm saying. I'm
Yeah.
not, the collateral is tertiary.
That's where I'm going. We're not making that loan to the company.
We're making this loan to facilitate them getting the $3 million grant money from New York State.
Or the company we're making the loan to answer your question, doesn't meet those standards. The company we're giving the loan
But
to,
no, you're right. No. Not from a traditional bank financing standpoint. Cash flow does not support for the Washington Street LLC.
Right.
Cash flow generation for the property doesn't support the loan. There's no question. What I'm saying is our primary source of repayment is the grant. They've got to follow the procedures of getting the grant. They need to do what they need to do according to the grant to get this done and get it paid through. If that doesn't happen, our fallback position is we've got a company and a guarantor that's strong, that we don't want them to have to do it, that'd be our last reason, but we would have the ability to get repaid based on the cash flow from that company. Third thing is, they would probably look to sell the building at a very discounted rate. Anything realized out of that would go to pay down the debt. So all of a sudden you're reducing it. I'm not saying the building itself is going to cover the exposure. I'm saying it's a third
Yeah.
it's a third source of repayment to basically reduce the debt if needed. And I'm not real concerned about environmental, because I'm sure all kinds of environmental reports have been done on the property. So from an environmental standpoint, I'm not too concerned. They're addressing that through SHPO, I'm sure,
Yeah.
with these
They have
these
requirements that
grant
they're
money. So
going to.
So it would be, whatever you get, you take the building just as a abundance of caution, right?
But you recognize the fact that the building is in good shape.
No, this is a long way from a traditional real estate deal.
No, I'm not disputing that. All I'm saying is, I would prefer to see instead of a guarantor, put them on as a co-borrower.
We can.
That's what I'm saying.
We'll check with Peter.
I'll ask you.
And I think for the question of like, what are we getting at the end of this? I mean, this was identified by the city of Watertown and the local planning committee as one of the premier projects for their downtown revitalization. It was always going to be a partial project because the full scope of a project would be too expensive. But,
Yeah.
but the project is, more of securing the
It was
building.
preserving the building, basically.
Right, preserve the building and opening opportunities for additional revenue from the other.
Is there a clear vision for end use? I mean, we've heard a lot of scuttlebutt, but is there a vision, do you think, for what this building might be after all the phases are complete?
I don't,
I've got an idea, but I don't really.
Is the
It's not for us to
theater,
say.
is the theater, I
Well,
mean,
that's
even
kind of what I
close
was
to
thinking,
being
yeah.
usable? I mean, I think the last time I was in there was when Cuomo came up.
yeah.
And I was shocked that we were gonna be in there for that.
Yeah.
I mean, was that like some
Yeah.
sort of thing where they just issued a certificate of occupancy and then
So-
they closed it the next minute
I
after we
think
all
they
walked
had
out?
well,
I don't think
temporary
I don't-
certificate of occupancy.
But I don't think it's not condemned for occupancy, is it?
The building isn't that, those areas of the building maybe, I don't know, there's
I'm not sure they
there's
are.
no functioning bathrooms or heating source up there.
Okay, how many people does it hold? Do we know? The theater?
Not sure.
No.
Man, it's just such a cool.
I think
200,
so, too.
I had 200 people there for the ERI
Oh,
announcement.
Yeah.
That was fairly full.
Yeah, I mean, it's fully built out, the opportunity there is
Yeah.
really awesome, you know?
I mean, the owners have talked about ideas that they have for the next phase of this, but I don't know what, they've talked about potentially turning it over to like a not-for-profit or municipality. Right now, it's a private owner, but,
Yeah.
sort of, they're taking all the risk at this
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
Just such a great spot.
Yeah.
I mean, the building itself is as cool as it gets, you know?
Mhm.
Well, and he brings a good point. If not this, then what? Then what happens to the building?
Yeah.
What's the
The building,
alternative?
if
Just sits there and
this
rots?
doesn't happen, the scaffolding comes down, you're looking at columns that are deteriorated.
Huge fence all around it.
You're gonna have a huge fence all around the
Yep.
middle of your downtown. I mean, it is a community development project.
Right.
It's just a picture.
Right. That's where there's no return on the investment for them.
No.
Really?
No, I don't care.
Or a lender, which is why the grant is available for the redevelopment.
Right, I mean, believe me, I was sitting in those chairs 30 years ago, and I would be asking the same question. I really would, but this is not a traditional deal. I mean, it's a community.
It isn't, that's what, yeah.
And that's
We-
why
we
I
agree.
totally understand why Chuck's, I'm gonna kind of exit the stage left. You know, that's why we brought in the idea.
Right, and that's, from that
And
perspective.
now we're bringing in Dank,
Yeah.
and we're sharing the risk, and
If the DRI the extension was already approved, would that change your thoughts on it? No?
No, because I'm looking at what's the end use and how's that property gonna generate rent?
that's.
And then,
really look at it.
and then,
I'm not even looking at that.
And then, well, that's because, I mean, I'm going, thinking that because there would be a permanent mortgage at that point that you would make money off. But this here, to do $1 million with a grant, with all the unknowns, with all this.
That's it.
where
I'm just
that's-
concerned
it's
with
too
the
much- I say
scope
it's
of
just
work.
Too much risk for,
Yeah.
I say, not enough.
If it was normal
For a bank,
construction.
for a bank.
Sure, for a bank, yeah.
Economic development, you guys, you know, it is, because look at this after 12 months, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's kind of the difference, right?
There's a huge difference there too.
Yeah.
And I totally get that. I can see where, you know, that would be your perspective. I guess I'm just, again, I'm looking at it from a little different angle. Is it, what the heck do we do with this thing, you know?
That's a good
And I'm not trying to put it on the taxpayers,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
either, but unfortunately,
Yeah.
I mean, here we are.
You're a prime example, the one that you used a little bit earlier. You had the capacity to cover the overruns.
Sorta.
Okay, see?
I mean,
Okay, my point is, this type of work that we're identifying to meet that grant requirement, get the extension, it's great. This type of work, I don't have the confidence as I sit here today that we have local expertise that can address it. And look at other type of masonry projects that have gone on. Not a single one has landed at where they initially said the cost would be to do it. Because the minute they start taking something away, something else is now evident. And that's where I'm looking at. Listen, I know some brick projects right in this zip code, $1 million project. When they're done, they're $3 million.
And keep in mind, this agent, or the agencies may very well be sitting on a $750,000 permanent note once this is all done, because of cost overruns and stuff of that nature.
And I'm just saying is that,
To get back the $3 million grant.
Right, that's why either the co-borrower or guarantors is.
Right.
it's very, very important here.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Well, just to be clear, so the work that they've already done, structural reinforcement, masonry, window restoration, asbestos abatement, front stair and sidewalk work. That's what's done. They are intending to do portico, south eave repair, south and north portico column restoration, which they claim will happen in the next month. They've got, or a month from now. They have this part of the project figured out, they said, assuming they can finance it. South cornice removal, elevator installation, southeast stair repair, first floor windows, basement access, bathroom renovations, HVAC installation.
So the masonry's been done.
Masonry's mostly been done, except for the columns, which they claim, you know, that they have in line. I don't know.
well, don't they have cornice removal? north
The removal,
removals?
yeah. Mhm.
That's where my concern comes in, is those removals to put something back.
And were they approved for that 500 coming back in yet?
That 500, we've approved it through ESD's board, but any disbursement will be contingent on their ability to complete the DRI project.
Yeah.
Which.
So they aren't gonna get that
In
until
turn,
the
which
DRI.
in turn is contingent upon having commitments
From here.
from your agencies and their.
Or some other path for them to
Yeah.
finance the project.
Yeah, but we're at the 11th hour now
Go
and
to my office.
pursuing a different
You see the lift?
path.
That's
It's been better. This is the second
From a
season.
time perspective.
Who's doing that?
Gee, I don't even know who it is over there. But they gotta keep tearing out to get it secure.
Don, you've been doing this a long time. You were a banker, now you're an economic development guy. Do you like this deal? What does your gut say?
I could say if I'm sitting in their chairs, it would be probably the same reaction, but sitting where I've been for the last 25 years, it is what we do, okay? Was I super excited about diving into the former YWCA building, now the Franklin building? No, I wasn't. Was I super excited about doing this is from a risk standpoint. The Historical Society, no, because there's always inherent risk when you're doing gap financing for grant monies that have substantial requirements that have to be followed. So from an economic development standpoint, it's what we do, okay? I think with this, while it's a little bit more money, not much more than we put into the Historical Society, but a little,
Yeah.
maybe $50,000 more, I'm much more comfortable with our ability to get repaid through secondary sources than I was, because there was no secondary source with Historical Society. That was just, we do it and we pray that they follow the requirements of the grant, and the money comes back in, we get paid out. If number one, if we didn't have professional, like Fourth Coast doing this project, and this is kind of a sideline what they're doing, although they're paying a lot more attention to it now. Their primary business is Fourth Coast. We didn't have them who have, construction knowledge and expertise, and we didn't have a company, like Fourth Coast willing to put their support behind this thing. I probably would have a lot more questions as to, what's our backup plan if these grants don't come through.
But as presented, you feel relatively good about it. I'm not trying to put you on the spot, I'm just trying to get a sense of your perspective.
Yeah, I do feel.
And you've been part of the conversations, how do you feel about it?
My concerns are, as I talked to Mike about it, is obviously the end use, but as Don said, it is what
But,
we
yeah,
do.
that
It is a
should have
very
been,
blighted building.
that should have been discussed more in depth when the funds were committed to the project from the state, from the DRI and from Restore. If that was gonna be a real concern, why did the city push this forward and make it part of the plan?
I would like to say that I think also that if, short of, one of, our major developers undertaking this project, I don't know who would have more expertise, given their experience with grants, engineering, Fourth Coast, just usual business dealings, to undertake this project. Maybe if, Purcell showed up here, they might have potentially a little bit more expertise to make this happen, but they are really well positioned, for this to be successful. So like to piggyback off your point, if someone showed up, to do the project and we were looking at this and it wasn't them, it was somebody maybe from outside the county, didn't really have any sort of backstory, this wouldn't even be entertained.
Right.
But here we have someone very well positioned to complete the project. From all the phases, the grant side, and from the engineering side, and all these other things. And that's another thing to me that kind of buoys this up a little bit better as well.
No, I agree. And, the horse is already out of the barn with regard to, the building itself generating the cash flow to service any kind of debt. That should have been addressed, like I said, when these grants were originally put out there. And it didn't seem to be a concern at that point. I think the primary focus was, how do we save this building? It's in the center of our downtown. It's an historic building. How do we save it? And that is the reason for these grant monies being approved and coming in. And the city would love to see $2.5 million in grants coming into a major property in the downtown area. I don't blame them for putting this forward. But like Steve said, the interior renovations and the reuse of the property, that is the second step. That's something that Kylie's probably gonna be focusing on moving forward is, and if it's not them, it's somebody else. If they wanna do it, you know, maybe that's the second phase of the project. And to your point, I think reuse of that theater area is, it would be unbelievable.
Yeah.
Agreed.
It would be unbelievable. I mean, you know, look at the Clayton Opera House, you know, this is that 3 times bigger. So,
Maybe when you guys go to a concert there, you'll feel different.
I'll make a recommendation to approve this economic development loan.
I'll second it.
Wow, the bankers come through in the final hour.
Make sure we take extra note of that.
Wow.
I would still like to talk to Peter, you know, get Peter's opinion on the
I'll talk to
guarantee
him
versus
about it.
co-borrowing.
yeah, I mean, there may be an extra step with a guarantee. I'm sure there would be,
Yeah.
but from ultimately having them legally bound, the guarantee is as strong as a obligation. I mean, if you guarantee your daughter's car loan and she doesn't pay it, they're coming to you, right?
Well, yeah, but this, yeah, I don't know. I agree with you there, but I'm not sure we're talking about the same thing. That's all I'm saying. Listen, you and I both know, we've been through heavy real estate transactions where we've had other entities guarantee and other entities debt. I'm just saying, if we get them one step closer to our front door, we got their wrists a little bit tighter. That's
The other
all.
thing is, from a consideration standpoint, does joint ownerships of 2 companies by the owner, is there consideration there to take the company the other company she owns as a co-borrower?
I don't know, that's what I'm
I
talking.
mean, that's the thing.
I don't know, but
I mean,
if
when I
that-
first started banking, consideration was a big
big
deal.
thing. Well, it's
Yeah.
gone away in these days. I mean,
Okay,
you know.
well, if it's gone away.
I mean, listen, you can have an operating company, you can have a real estate holding company, you can co-obligate
No,
both of
I
them.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if and the majority of our conversation from the ones around the room that are looking, I think I've heard multiple times that the sponsor, which is the real estate holding company, 242 Washington, we're not looking at them to repay it, we're looking at somebody else to repay it. So I'm not sure where consideration comes in, but let's get it on the table, that's all I'm saying.
What's the easiest way, is your point?
Right, I just wanna make it easy, so if we do run into a hill, we don't have to climb a big one. We can-
I agree.
Yeah.
We'll find that out.
Alright,
We'll have it from board meeting.
Do we have any other business?
Let's know.
yeah, really, we need that.
I know, my head is spinning.
I'm kind of stressed out.
I know, I feel
You're supposed to be stressed on these, Marshall.
How
These
close that we
are easy.
adjourn?
Because
Yes,
I
I'll
spoke
second
to
that.
these guys before, that's why I wasn't so.
Oh, you do.
Is the thing still recording?
We're
Just a minute.
Vote for us.
What's that?